Last night, I gave my wife the perfect evening. Roses, a hot bath, pure passion. Today, I caught her red-handed with her lover in a sleazy motel. You think that's wild? I froze her bank accounts, got the cops involved, and left her stranded on the highway with a flat tire. While she was begging at my door, I was filing for divorce and tossing her things in the driveway. This isn't just revenge, this is a takedown no one saw coming. Think you've heard wild breakup stories? You haven't seen anything like this.
Last night, I really went out of my way to make my wife feel special. Things have been kind of rocky between us lately, and I figured it was about time I tried to fix things. I took a day off work, supposedly to take our two kids, Jack, who's 14, and Chana, 12, to a week-long soccer camp. Truth be told, my main focus was making sure everything was perfect at home. I started things off by sending Melinda 24 long-stemmed red roses at her job. I wrote the card myself. Roses are red. My love for you's true. Tonight, you'll see exactly what I plan to do. Dinner's my treat. Dessert is just you. Seconds and thirds. All of it's for you. Okay, maybe it wasn't poetry, but I figured it got the point across. Turned out, I was right. Melinda greeted me at the door with a pretty enthusiastic kiss and a story about how jealous her coworkers were. She gave me a look that said a lot. Lucky doesn't even begin to describe what's in store for you tonight, she teased. I took the lead and let her know, hey, tonight's all about you. For step 2, I got her a warm bubble bath with a perfectly chilled glass of Chardonnay. I told her to relax and enjoy herself while I set up dinner. I didn't actually cook, just picked up her favorite Italian food and popped it in the oven to keep warm. While I was setting the table, I heard Melinda behind me. You're being very naughty tonight, she laughed. I turned to see her standing there in a red outfit I'd bought earlier that day, looking absolutely stunning. Honestly, she didn't know the half of it. After dinner and a couple glasses of wine, I took her by the hand and led her to our room. Along the way, I slowly helped her out of her clothes, laying gentle kisses along her skin. I made sure to focus on what she liked most, teasing and making her laugh as I went along. The night was all about her, lots of affection, attention, and making sure she felt loved. I took my time, letting the moments linger and keeping the focus on her happiness. Whenever she started to get caught up in the moment, I'd switch things up, drawing things out and making the anticipation build. Eventually, she started pulling me closer, letting me know exactly what she wanted. I kept things slow, making every moment count. When we finally came together, it was intense, there was a lot of passion, and it felt like all that effort really paid off. We both ended up pretty breathless by the end. Afterward, we lay there for a while, whispering those soft, meaningful things couples say when they're close. I told her again and again how much I loved her, and she just smiled, looking blissed out and happy. Later, I made sure to keep showing her how much I cared, more affection, more attention, and just being close. We ended the night feeling like we'd really reconnected. It was probably the best night we'd had in a long time. When I woke up early the next day, I got myself ready, took a shower, and headed out before she was even up. I left her a note, reminding her I'd have to work late to make up for the day off. Let's just say, after all that, I had my work cut out for me today. Today, I, Timothy Allen Pick, am sitting here, waiting in my car, getting ready for a confrontation I never thought I'd have. I checked my watch, she'd be here any minute now. By she, I mean Melinda, my wife of 16 years and the same woman I tried so hard to spoil the night before. Here's the thing, Melinda's been seeing someone else. As far as I can tell, it's been going on for close to a year. I've been certain for about a month now, and before that, I'd been suspicious for a while. My doubts started with little things, the kinds of things couples notice about each other. There were shifts in her habits, small changes in our routine, and especially those moments when her explanations didn't quite add up. For example, I noticed our intimacy took a nosedive, but at the same time, she started dressing up a lot more. She seemed to be in the mood, but I wasn't the one she was interested in. I know that might sound like I'm grasping at straws, but sometimes, it's the small stuff that tells the bigger story. The real turning point was one evening when we went out without the kids. Melinda met me at the restaurant, coming straight from work. I could just tell by the look in her eyes and the way she acted that something was different, almost like she'd just had an incredible time before even seeing me. Later that night, when I thought we'd be close, she brushed me off, saying she wasn't feeling well. I let it slide, but that's when I decided I needed to find out what was really going on. I started keeping a closer eye on her, paying attention to how she spent her time away from home, checking laundry, and listening to every word she said. It's kind of wild what you start noticing when you really pay attention. I've always believed most people try to avoid outright lying, especially women. That doesn't mean they'll give you the whole truth, but it means you've got to read between the lines, looking at all the possibilities, kind of like playing chess with words, always thinking a few moves ahead. I was honestly taken aback by the little ways Melinda started showing me less respect. It was subtle, but I could feel it. There was this kind of quiet condescension in how we talked to each other, and it felt like I'd somehow dropped down a notch in our relationship. On top of that, it got tough to reach her at work, especially on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Even though I'd pretty much convinced myself she was hiding something, I didn't think it was worth getting lawyers involved, at least not yet. But then, I stumbled onto something real. I found a pair of black sheer panties with unmistakable evidence that she'd been with someone else. I remembered exactly the last time I'd seen her wear those, and I knew for a fact when we'd last been together. The dates just didn't line up. For me, that was enough. At that point, I figured the odds were she'd cross the line. I have to admit, bringing it up to Melinda wasn't easy. She'd been lying to me for who knows how long, and I imagine she probably had some sort of excuse in her mind to justify what she was doing. I decided to keep it simple. I suggested we have another date night, just the two of us, and reminded her she owed me. I even asked if she'd wear the black sheer panties for me. That evening, as we were getting dressed, I mentioned it again, and she promised I wouldn't be disappointed. At dinner, I poured on the charm and kept her wine glass full. By the time we got home, Melinda was more flirtatious than I'd seen her in years. "Why don't you put on a show for me?" I said, relaxing back on the bed with my hands behind my head. "Come on, gorgeous, let's see what you've got." Melinda swayed a little, pretending to be shy, but I could tell she was enjoying it. "Come on, Melinda, you owe me." "We haven't been together in almost a month," I teased, hoping to get a reaction. Truthfully, it had been just over 2 weeks, but I wanted to hear her say it. "We had sex right before you left on that trip. It's only been 2 weeks, she replied after a pause. 2.5, I corrected. "Fine, 2.5, she agreed, rolling her eyes a bit. "All right, Mr. Impatient, let's see if you can handle a little striptease." She started taking off her shoes and stockings, showing off her legs but not giving me a peek at any panties. Then, her blouse came off, and I noticed she was wearing the matching black sheer bra. She really played it up, sliding the straps down and pulling them back up, drawing out the moment. She spun around, unclasped her bra with a practiced move, and then faced me, holding her bra cups to her chest before slowly revealing herself and tossing the bra my way. "I can't wait to see those panties, babe," I said, trying to keep things playful. For a moment, I saw a flicker of anxiety on her face. That just made me even more suspicious, honestly. She slowly unzipped her skirt, bent over, and hooked her thumbs in the waistband. I stopped her. "Hold on, Melinda, straighten up for a second. I want to see you in those panties through the sheer." She tried to make a joke of it, but I could hear the tension in her voice. "Hey, whose striptease is this, anyway?" I thought this was supposed to be about what I like. I pushed gently. "Let me see those panties." She tried to brush it off. "What's so special about these panties, Tim? Come on, let's just have some fun." I looked her in the eye. "I gave you those for our anniversary, remember? They're kind of special to me. Humor me, just let the skirt drop and show me." She let the skirt fall, but to my surprise, she wasn't wearing any panties at all. She'd shaved smooth, too, and stood there with her hands on her hips, striking a pose. "Ta-da," she said. That threw me for a loop. I hadn't expected it. Thankfully, I kept my cool. I knew this was my moment to get back in control. "Where are the black panties? Go grab them and let's start again," I said, acting as casual as I could. She gave me a look. "Tim, check it out, I shaved for you. It's all smooth." I shook my head. "That's nice and all, but I asked to see you in those black panties, not for a surprise makeover." She looked surprised and a little hurt. "You think this makes me look like some kind of?" "Honestly, it's not what I asked for," I told her. "I never asked you to shave. I just wanted to see you in the gift I gave you." She pushed back, a little defensive now. "Put the panties on, please," I said, softening my tone. "What's with you and those stupid panties?" She was clearly frustrated, but I felt calmer than ever. "I just really like how you look in them, that's all. Why is it so hard to do this one thing for me? Please, just put them on." She finally snapped. "I couldn't find them, all right? They're probably in the laundry." "But you always wash your sets together, you have the bra, so where are the panties?" I wasn't letting it go. She glared at me. I told you, I couldn't find them. Don't get mad at me. I'm just the guy who gave them to you and asked to see them. If you'd said something earlier, it wouldn't have been a big deal. All I asked for was the truth. Why is that so hard? I shrugged, trying to act innocent. So, the last time you wore them was right before my trip, right? You took them off here in the bedroom before we went to bed. Maybe they got knocked under the bed? Tim, can we just let the whole panty thing go? The energy was gone from her voice now, and I could see a bit of worry in her eyes. Can't you just be with me? Of course, I said, trying to reassure her. Melinda relaxed a bit, but I wasn't done. You know, those panties actually meant a lot to me. She stepped away, her face serious. Yeah, I can tell. I thought back to the last time I saw her in them. I'm pretty sure the last time was right here in this room. I got off the bed and checked under it, just to be sure. Remember? You took them off right about here? She nodded. Yeah, I remember. But now I'm standing here, I'm not wearing them, and honestly, I'm starting to get a headache. Rain check for tonight, okay? Melinda started gathering up her clothes. I tried to lighten the mood. It's just underwear, no big deal, right? She looked miserable, and I could tell she was upset. Are we okay? Is there something you're not telling me? I just don't get why a simple request turns into an argument. Why not just be upfront with me? She looked away. I don't know. I didn't want to let you down. We've both been so busy with work and family, and I guess I made a mountain out of a molehill. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. Maybe we can try again another time. Wait a second. I smiled as I pulled out the missing underwear from under the bed and held them out to her. She took them, looking first confused, then almost horrified, and finally, strangely confident. So that's where they've been hiding? I could have sworn I checked there already. I had to hand it to Melinda. She bounced back pretty fast. Why don't you put them on? I said, pressing a little. She just shook her head. They're dirty, Tim. I'll wash them first, and you'll be the first to see them when they're clean. That's all? I asked, honestly impressed by how quickly she was rolling with it. She gave me a look. What, is there something else you want? I kept my cool and tried to sound casual. We haven't been together for over 2 weeks, and you said the last time you wore those, you took them off before we had sex. So, what's all the stuff on them? I was proud I didn't let my tone get accusatory. It kind of looks like, you know, a mess. What came next was honestly an award-worthy show of dodges and half-truths. Suddenly we were both mistaken about when we'd last been together. She made a big deal out of realizing I was suspicious she might be seeing someone else, and called me jealous for no reason. The cherry on top? She said it was cute that I thought she was some sort of wild woman. I started apologizing all over myself, blaming my jealousy and my bad memory. I watched as she relaxed, her confidence practically shining. I'm sure she thought she'd smooth things over. But inside, I knew the truth. She was wrong, it wasn't nothing, and there's nothing sweet about being betrayed. That much I knew for sure. While I kept up the act on the outside, inside I was boiling with a quiet, focused anger. At that moment, my whole perspective shifted. I wasn't wondering anymore, I was certain she'd been unfaithful. For me, our marriage was already over. I knew it. And soon enough, she'd know it too. Once I let go of denial, everything became clearer and easier to see. I wanted undeniable proof, I needed to actually catch her in the act, and I was willing to go to whatever lengths it took. It's wild what you can do with some modern tech, GPS trackers, checking phone records, poking around on computers, and a couple of digital voice recorders. It didn't take long for me to put the whole picture together, who she was with, what they did, how often, and most importantly, when their next meeting was scheduled. Turns out, the guy's name was Ernie. They were getting together 2 or 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and a lot of Saturdays, usually at some motel clear across town. Listening to those recordings, it all seemed almost boring, it was so routine. The thing that hit me hardest was how little guilt Melinda showed. When she talked about me on tape, I was just an obstacle, someone she had to work around. That's all I was, a problem in her schedule. Once I realized how little she cared, any thoughts of maybe forgiving her vanished. I went from thinking about giving her another chance, if she really worked for it, to wanting nothing but payback. I wanted her to feel the consequences. There was no way I'd fight for her now, she'd switched sides in my mind. From here on out, I was going to fight against her for everything I could get. It's funny how clear your mind gets when you finally stop caring. I even remember the exact moment I hit that point of no return. It happened when I listened to a recording of her talking in her car, right after the whole underwear discovery. The recorder picked up just her side of a call with her boyfriend. She said, "Suspicious? Not anymore. Tim totally trusts me now. You should see how hard he tries to make me happy, it's almost cute." Then she laughed. I just told him that the stain on the panties he found was his. Said I'd been looking everywhere for them and thanked him for finding them under the washer. He believed every word. She giggled, "Yeah, but he's my dumb husband." Then she added, "No, Ernie, I told you, Tim's my husband, I do love him. But yeah, I love you too. In a different way, thank God I don't have to pick. I've got the best of both worlds. A husband who's sweet and a lover who's wild." It's strange the things you think about when you stop caring about someone. I decided right then, she was going to regret this, in a big way. When it came to payback, I wanted to hit her where it hurt, both now and in the long run. I wanted this to be something Melinda would never forget. As for Ernie, I didn't care much. If he got caught up in this mess, that was his problem. My main concern was protecting our kids. I wanted to shield them from the initial fallout and make sure Melinda felt the full weight of what she'd done. That's why my timing revolved around them. I waited until school was out and signed them up for a week at a soccer camp at a university a few hours away. The camp ran Monday to Friday. After dropping them off Monday morning, I made sure to talk with the camp staff. I let them know, in careful terms, that I was having major issues with their mom, about faithfulness, and, just to drive the point home, I tossed in possible drug use. That definitely caught their attention. I told them I'd be filing for divorce right away and just wanted my kids out of the blast zone. They were sympathetic and understanding. Today, Tuesday, was the big day. Melinda and Ernie had plans to meet at 4. I spent the day lining everything up, divorce papers ready to file, locks changed, banks and cards taken care of. This was going to be a day she'd remember forever. I kept an eye on the time, timing was everything now. When I saw Melinda's car pull into the motel lot, I couldn't help but smile. Operation Slapdown was officially underway. Right after I saw her turn in, I called her work and left a message saying there was an emergency, and she should call my cell as soon as possible. Ernie showed up a few minutes later. He looked young, probably in his late 20s. Any doubts I had vanished when I saw Melinda greet him like she couldn't wait to see him. While they were together, I called her cell, knowing she'd let it ring. She did exactly what I expected. She let it go to voicemail, and then locked her phone in her car. That way she could tell me later she never got my calls. I left a message about a family emergency, just to really drive up her stress. I kept calling and hanging up every couple of minutes, planning to leave her phone packed with missed calls. I waited about 20 minutes, long enough for them to definitely be busy, then drove over and parked by her car. I opened my trunk to look casual. Here's a little trick I picked up: if you unscrew the core of a tire's valve stem, all the air comes out fast. In less than 3 minutes, I flattened both tires on Melinda's car and put the valves back in. Then I pressed a handful of roofing nails into the tire treads, making it look like she just had some really bad luck. Ernie's truck didn't escape my attention, either. Now, I wasn't looking to actually hurt the guy, but since the chance was right there, I figured I'd mess with him a bit. I'd borrowed a little floor jack ahead of time, so I lifted up the front of his truck and loosened the oil pan bolt until it was just barely hanging on. After that, I lowered his truck back down, packed away the jack, and closed up my trunk. The whole operation took maybe 15 minutes. I drove off and found a spot to wait for them to finish up. 2 hours later, they finally emerged, clinging to each other with kisses and hugs. I could tell Melinda was feeling pretty relaxed. She always got especially affectionate after, well, you know. But her easygoing mood disappeared the moment she saw her car with 2 flat tires. Suddenly, she was marching up and down beside her car, arms waving as she tried to figure out what had happened. Ernie must have made some dumb comment because she shot something back at him that made him raise his hands and step away like he wanted no part of it. I called her phone just then. She searched around her purse for her car key, and when she spotted the long list of missed calls, you could almost see her heart sink. That was my cue. She called me back, and I braced myself for the act. "Hey Tim? Have you?" Her voice was shaky and nervous. "Melinda, where have you been?" I was practically shouting into the phone, letting panic color my words. "You don't have to yell, Tim. I can hear you fine," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I've been trying to get a hold of you for hours. Where are you? Why aren't you at work?" I let my voice tremble, sounding just on the edge of panic. She started to stammer out some excuse, but I cut her off. "Just listen," I barked, crinkling some paper by the phone to add to the drama. There's been an emergency at the soccer camp. Both kids were rushed to the hospital, doctors aren't sure if they'll make it. I'm heading there now, phone's about to die, just get to the medical center, I'll see you there. Hurry, Melon. I hung up and powered off my phone. From my spot, I could see her yelling into the phone, panic written all over her face. Next thing I knew, she shoved Ernie toward his truck and they both sped off toward the freeway. Once they were gone, I went to Melinda's car, pulled out the fake nails I'd put in her tires, and used a couple cans of tire sealant to refill them. She was definitely going to need her car before long. I had a couple more calls to make before heading home. On my way to the freeway, I stopped at an emergency call box and took out 2 voice recorders I'd brought. I called the State Highway Patrol and, dropping my voice into a thick Southern accent, started my story. Hello, officer, I'd like to report some road rage. I was doing the speed limit and this blue Toyota pickup came flying up right behind me, practically on my bumper. He started honking, swerved out and pulled up right next to me, almost caused a wreck, and I had my family in the car. Then he cut in front of me, real dangerous. I got the last 3 numbers of the plate, 392. My name is, I pressed play on my recorder. An angry woman's voice burst out, tell them about the gun, Harold. That man had a gun, I saw it. I turned away, responding to the fake wife, honey, I didn't see a gun, I'm just reporting what happened. Then I pressed the second recorder, so those people can track us down and hurt us? Hang up, Harold, just hang up. I clicked off the call. The woman who helped record those lines at work thought it was for a prank on my brother-in-law and didn't bat an eye. Back in my car, I called the soccer camp to let them know things had blown up after telling Melinda I was divorcing her. I said she'd lost it and might try to show up with her boyfriend to take the kids. I made it clear her new guy was a known drug user, so for the kids' safety, they shouldn't let them leave with anyone but me. The camp staff understood and promised to keep things quiet unless there was a real emergency. A little while later, I was back home eating pizza and sipping a beer, waiting for things to unfold. I figured Melinda might show up if she managed to figure out where the kids were, but I doubted she'd find the right camp or have the contact info. And even if she got to the university, she'd discover there was no medical center or hospital there. If the oil plug I loosened worked its way out, she and Ernie might be stuck on the side of the road anyway. A couple hours later, I got a call from the camp. Melinda and a man had shown up, with state police in tow. The police had pulled them over for speeding, and apparently, the road rage and gun story led them to search both of them pretty thoroughly. At the camp, staff reassured Melinda the kids were safe, but said she couldn't see them unless I was there. Melinda didn't take that well. The camp folks told me that one of the staff asked Melinda if her companion was her husband or her boyfriend. They said she went pale and then totally lost it. The police had to escort both Melinda and Ernie off the property. Then came the part I never even planned. While Melinda and Ernie were talking with police, someone mentioned that her boyfriend was flagged as a drug user. As soon as they left the campus, the cops pulled Ernie over and searched him again. He must have gotten mouthy because he wound up getting arrested for driving under the influence. Melinda was in such an emotional state they wouldn't let her drive either, so they took her into temporary custody too. After that, I got a call from Sergeant Waterston with the state police. He was polite, and after I explained that my wife had been cheating on me and I was done, he said Melinda had been notified that I'd filed for divorce. I gave him my lawyer's number. The sergeant asked if I could stay available for a call from my wife. I agreed, but warned him she'd probably deny everything. He even asked if I was okay with them running some tests. I told him do what he had to do. He laughed that off. Half an hour later, he called again. They were releasing Melinda, and she wanted to speak with me. I told him she could call my lawyer. He asked if I'd be coming to get her. I replied that her car was still parked at the motel where she'd been cheating. He got a good laugh out of that. 10 minutes after, my phone rang, Melinda's number. I picked up but said nothing. There was a long, tense silence, then finally a shaky breath on the line. Tim, I don't know what you think is happening, but please, Melinda, don't make this any worse than it already is. You wrecked our family, I replied quietly, my voice steady. Then I hung up and turned my phone ringer off. I kind of wished I could have seen her face when she heard my new voicemail. Hi, this is Tim. Melinda no longer lives here. If you need her, call her cell. It was 2 in the morning when I heard loud banging on the front door. Of course, it was Melinda. I called out from behind the door, your stuff's in the driveway. I packed up your things. Please, just take your stuff and go. Tim, please let me in, she pleaded, her voice completely worn out. There's been a huge misunderstanding. We have to talk. I love you, Tim. Please. We went back and forth for a while, but I never opened the door. Finally, I played a recording I'd made of her talking to Ernie in her car, saying things I never wanted to hear. I turned up the volume for the part where she told him how much she loved him. Melinda broke down crying right there on the porch. I told her to grab her things and go stay with her boyfriend or whoever else she was seeing. She finally left, telling me she'd head to her parents' house and that she'd be back the next day to straighten things out. But the next day didn't exactly go as she'd planned, and honestly, nothing that came after worked out for her either. I stayed determined and didn't let up. On Thursday, I had her officially served with divorce papers, right at her workplace. That little move rattled her, and she was waiting for me by my car after work, angrier than I'd ever seen her. "I don't have anything to say to you," I told her, keeping my cool even as she fumed. She glared at me, furious. "Don't talk to me like that. I can't believe you had me served at work. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I kept my voice steady. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Want me to call you something else? Would you prefer cheater?" "Tim, I'll admit I made a mistake. But we can work through this. I love you. Let's not throw it all away. Let's stop this nonsense and..." "Nonsense?" I cut her off. "You betrayed me and our family. If I gave you $20, would you leave right now?" "How dare you," she snapped. "I'm still your wife, Tim. I'm the mother of your children. They'll be coming home tomorrow, and they're going to find me," I said. "They'll find me here. I figure you'll be off somewhere else, probably with your new man." "Tim, stop with the names. That's not helping anyone. We need to talk. I know you're hurt, but we can get through this. I believe our marriage can be stronger for it." I shook my head. "Do you even hear yourself? You made a choice, you were with another man, you took off your clothes for him, you crossed every line. You risked everything, our marriage, our family, my love, my health. I got tested, by the way, so far, I'm clean, but I have to wait months for the all clear." I watched the color drain from her face. "You risked everything, and for what? What did he risk?" She was shaking now. "No, Tim, it's not like that." "Oh? So what did you get for tossing everything away? Any gifts? Secret trips? Money tucked away somewhere? Anything at all? Or was it just nothing?" Melinda couldn't answer, she just shook her head, totally lost for words. "That's what I thought. Nothing. No jewelry, no romantic getaways, not even a secret stash of cash. You threw away our life for nothing. Calling you a cheater doesn't even begin to cover it." At that, I got in my car and drove away, leaving her sobbing on the curb. Cashing in my chips. I showed up to the lawyer's office right on time. I'd even stopped at home to shower and put on a suit, I wanted to look my best. Melinda sat across from me. If I still cared, the look in her eyes probably would have torn me apart, but I just sat there, calm and determined. She made one last attempt to stall, but I just glanced at my watch, and that was that. Her shoulders dropped, she picked up the pen, and asked my lawyer where to sign. That was it, victory. I almost wanted to do a touchdown dance. The first document she signed was the petition for divorce, irreconcilable differences. At one point, I cared a lot that adultery be listed as the reason, but my lawyer explained that the real victory was in the details, the terms and conditions that shape life after divorce. We'd even rehearsed the whole signing process, there were steps, props, everything. The next document was for a name change, Melinda had to take back her maiden name. If you think that's no big deal, you're wrong. She'd no longer share a last name with our kids, and that almost made her back out. That one really stung, I saw tears fall as she signed. A small black tray was set in front of her. Melinda looked at me, her face empty. That's when it hit me, she wasn't just losing a negotiation, she was surrendering everything. She stared at the tray and shuddered as she slipped off her wedding ring. Once it was down, it was quickly taken away. She twisted her engagement ring on her finger. I'd let her keep it, but even that felt empty now. "Do you know why I'm letting you keep that ring, Melinda? I gave you that ring because I loved you and believed in us. I want you to remember all we promised, and what you gave up." I slipped off my own wedding band and handed it to her. "You can have this back. I kept my promises." An assistant returned with the tray, her wedding ring had been cut in half. I picked up the pieces, showed them to her, and tossed them in the trash. Worthless now. She looked shaky and gripped the table, her head bowed. My sense of triumph faded a little as the next document was placed in front of her, a quit-claim deed, transferring her share of the house into a college trust for the kids, with her as trustee until they came of age. Finally, we reached the document that sealed the deal, The custody agreement. My lawyer spoke clearly. Do you fully understand the custody terms? The kids stay in the house, and parents alternate living there week by week, with transitions every Sunday between 6 and 7 p.m. Expenses are shared equally until the kids reach adulthood. If you agree, just sign. I watched as Melinda, now just a shadow of herself, signed her name. When the pen dropped from her hand, she finally broke down. Defeat is not pretty, and it sticks around. I'd kept a step ahead of Melinda from the moment she walked out of that motel room. Divorce and keeping my relationship with the kids safe was my mission. The kids were everything to me. I bent over backward to protect them, making sure Melinda and her parents would always have access, but I also promised not to tell them why we split up. To them, it would always be your mom and dad are parting ways as partners, not as parents. There was one other card I played, the threat of exposing video evidence of Melinda and Ernie. The truth is, I didn't have any. Years back, someone mentioned seeing an adult film actress who looked a lot like Melinda. I checked it out, and the resemblance was strong. So, during my planning, I picked up a few of those movies and found a couple where the actor looked like Ernie, mid to late 20s, average build, dark hair. I recorded sections of those movies off my TV onto my old camcorder, enough to fake some motel footage. Watched on the tiny screen, under grainy light, it looked just real enough. It was convincing, especially if you only saw it on a camera screen. Honestly, Melinda would have recognized the video as a fake right away, but her dad? Not a chance. He called a meeting with me, hoping to convince me to give Melinda another shot. He even offered to hire a lawyer to try to stop the divorce. So, I pulled out the evidence. I showed him the video and told him this was just the tip of the iceberg, that I had hours more if he wanted to see it. Whatever he said to Melinda afterward must have worked. I guess if your son-in-law threatens to send a tape like that to your friends, family, and everyone else you know, it's pretty convincing. When it was all said and done, the biggest point of contention was joint custody. We agreed to alternate weeks, but I made sure the agreement spelled out, very clearly, that Melinda couldn't bring any of her boyfriends, and yes, I insisted on the plural, into the house. Call and raise. You know what's funny? The last thing I expected after a divorce was for women to suddenly notice me. The truth is, getting cheated on like I did with Melinda really knocks you down a peg. I'd started to feel like I just wasn't good enough, or at the very least, maybe I was a lousy partner. So you can imagine my surprise when I found out that being newly single was actually a magnet for attention. Throughout the divorce, I stayed above board. No jumping into revenge hookups or dating. My lawyer strongly advised against any extra complications. But as soon as I was officially single, with decent credit and a stable life, I found out that I was something of a catch. What's more, a lot of women seemed determined to help me through my difficult time. I was honestly surprised by how many folks wanted to get me back on my feet. They were so enthusiastic, I actually started to look forward to my time at home with the kids, just so I could rest. I had offers from coworkers, friends, including some of Melinda's, and even women who lived in my apartment building, where I stayed during my off weeks. The first time anything happened, it caught me totally off guard. I was still unpacking in my new place and had just ordered pizza. When the knock came, I figured it was just delivery, but I was wrong. The woman standing there was someone I'd seen in the building, though I didn't know her name. "Hi, I'm Darlene," with a "in," she told me. She pronounced it Darlin. Darlene was pretty average looking, but she had this easygoing charm about her. I invited her in and we ended up splitting the pizza and a couple beers. Turned out, Darlene was divorced, too. My ex tried to sleep with anything female, 18 or older, and probably younger, if I'm being honest, she told me, laughing. She was open, a little on the curvy side, and refreshingly straightforward. "Tim, you seem like a good guy. So anytime you want some company, you just call Darlene," she said with a wink. I almost said I was doing fine with the cooking and cleaning, but I realized what she meant. She wasn't shy about what she liked either. I love, having fun both ways, giving and getting. Sleeping together only comes after a proper date. And just so you know, I don't do anything out of bounds. If you ever try that, you won't see me again, she said it all so matter-of-factly, I didn't even know how to react. Before I knew it, Darlene had things moving along fast. She looked me over with a critical eye and grinned. "Well, Tim, you're doing just fine." Next thing I knew, I was having the most surprising, skillful experience I'd had in a long time. She really seemed to enjoy what she was doing, and that made all the difference. It wasn't just the enthusiasm, either, it was her technique. She knew how to make a guy feel great, and she wasn't shy about using her hands to make it even better. All I can say is, my mind went completely blank from the pleasure. And when she asked if I trusted her, I nodded, and she showed me a new level of intensity. Let's just say the whole experience went to another level. The next night, we repeated the fun, and after a little more time together, we ended up sleeping together. She agreed that our pizza night counted as a date. After that, we started seeing each other regularly. But it wasn't exclusive, far from it. A couple weeks later, Darlene went out of town during one of my off weeks and sent a friend over instead. Rhonda wasn't as into the same things, but she had a style all her own. I never knew a woman could move like that, it was almost like a dance. Honestly, she wore me out. I'll admit, I really leaned into my new lifestyle at first. I was with, well, let's just say more than a few women in that first year after the divorce. The sex was good, sometimes even great, but a part of me missed the connection and intimacy I'd had with Melinda, at least in the early years. Still, the emptiness only seemed to fuel my anger at her. I didn't hide what I was up to, either, and I have to confess I took a certain satisfaction from the look on Melinda's face every Sunday evening. Gradually, life found its rhythm again. Even the kids seemed to adjust. Holidays were hard at first, but we made it through. Months turned into years, and before I knew it, we'd all gotten a little older, if not much wiser. 4 years after the divorce, something happened that I didn't see coming. I fell in love. Laying down your cards. The kids got involved with the local youth group at church. They went on all sorts of trips, including ski weekends every winter. I was happy to help out as a chaperone from time to time. One year, on a ski trip, Jillian, another chaperone and the sister of one of the youth leaders, broke her arm. After the ski patrol helped her, I was asked to take her down the mountain to get checked out at the hospital. The ER was packed because of a big traffic accident, so we had to wait. We ended up grabbing a bite to eat across the street and talking for a couple hours. Jillian was more cute than gorgeous, and only 25, but as we talked, I realized we had real chemistry. I hadn't felt that kind of connection in a long time, and she clearly felt it too. It actually took me a month to work up the nerve to ask Jillian out officially. I kept thinking about the age gap, after all, I was 21 years older than her. But she said yes right away, telling me her dad was 12 years older than her mom, and they were still going strong. We started dating, and as things got more serious, I gradually let go of the casual flings I'd been having. Things were moving fast, but in a good way. A couple months into the relationship, Melinda surprised me by asking if I was in love with Jillian. I'd been ready to brush it off or dodge the question, but in that moment, I realized I just couldn't lie about it. I quietly told her yes. Melinda simply nodded and gave me a hug. "You deserve to be happy," she said. That threw me. For one, I really did love Jillian. For another, Melinda seemed to accept it, almost with relief. Later, when I told Jillian about it, she just smiled and teased me, "It took you long enough." For the first time in ages, I found myself truly happy, genuinely content with my life. And that's when I realized there was still one important thing left to do. Years before, Melinda had apologized for her cheating, but I'd refused to forgive her. Now, I knew it was time to let that go, for real. On the drive to see her, I thought about Melinda's earlier attempts to explain herself and apologize. The first time didn't really count, it was just before we signed the divorce papers. She'd asked for a half-hour alone with me, hoping to change my mind. I came prepared, with my anger still fresh. I barely looked at her, just watched the clock. When time was up, I picked up my pen. She knew then that her chance was gone. The second attempt came after our first holidays as a split family. Thanks to a scheduling quirk, I'd ended up with the kids for both Thanksgiving and Christmas. It was a tough, lonely season for all of us. In early January, Melinda wanted to talk. That's when she brought up my dating, or as she called it, your open door, open fly policy. The conversation went downhill fast. She told me, "Tim, I know I messed up. I've caused so much pain in our family. The holidays were miserable for all of us. I know you've been with other women and it's tearing me up inside. I think we're supposed to be together, Tim. I've set up a couples counseling appointment. I want to try again. I've learned my lesson." I was honestly stunned at first, and then my anger took over. "Learned your lesson?" I asked, unable to hide my sarcasm. She nodded, looking completely sincere. "Yes, Tim. I promise, no more lies. I'll be honest from now on." I looked at her. "So, what about your other relationships? Are you planning to end those?" She shook her head. "Singular, not plural. I haven't talked to or seen Ernie since everything blew up. Unlike you, I haven't dated anyone." I raised my eyebrows. So, no new relationships? Just straight to the physical stuff or what? She snapped, "How dare you? I haven't been with any other man, unlike you and your parade of women. Do you have any idea how painful it is to know you're out there every week, leaving the kids to be with someone else?" I kept calm. First, we're not married anymore, Melinda. Second, I'm single now. Third. That doesn't matter. She interrupted. You and I belong together, Tim. Even if you're technically single, you're still cheating on me. You should stop fooling around and give us another chance. At that point, I'd had enough. Look, Melinda, if you're lonely, you can come by some night. I always wondered about a threesome, you, me, and another woman. I'm open to that. That was pretty much the end of that conversation. Melinda would try again every 6 months or so. But it wasn't until about a year ago that her apology finally felt real. She'd started therapy and, for the first time, her voice was genuinely soft and sincere. Tim, I want to start by saying that I don't think I'll ever fully understand how much I hurt you by betraying our marriage and lying to cover it up. I'm so sorry for the pain I caused you and the kids through my selfishness. Therapy has helped me realize just how wrong my choices were. I am truly sorry. Apology accepted, I told her, finally meaning it. Melinda explained that her cheating wasn't about romance or love, it was a mix of undiagnosed depression, a midlife crisis, and losing track of her own values. She did it, in her words, because I could. When she stripped everything else away, that was the truth. She admitted that Ernie wasn't some amazing partner, just different. It wasn't about him, it was the thrill of sneaking around. She met Ernie at work while I was on a trip, and what started as some innocent flirting at a Friday night gathering quickly turned into something more. After that, things escalated. She described how the first time was rushed and reckless, a blur of wine, bad decisions, and not much thought for the consequences. Afterward, she went through the motions at home, but she was already waiting for the next time I'd be away. Over time, cheating became so normal to her that she didn't even wait for my business trips. It just kept going until I finally caught her. When Melinda finished her apology, I told her again that I accepted it, but I didn't actually say I forgave her. That was intentional. I knew before I could truly move forward with Jillian, I had to let go of the old baggage. I needed to genuinely forgive Melinda so I could keep growing. That Sunday night, the emotions just overwhelmed all of us. Melinda, me, the kids, we were all crying, some of it from regret, a lot of it just relief and release. I told Melinda that, despite everything, there'd always be a part of me that cared about her. She said she'd never stop loving me. We both nodded and understood what that meant. It wasn't about getting back together, but about letting go. A father's need. If I've learned anything, it's that nothing lasts forever. Jillian and I really loved each other, and we were happy together, but deep down, we both knew marriage wasn't in the cards for us. Jillian wanted to have kids someday, and I'd had a vasectomy after Chena was born. I wasn't willing to go through a reversal. So, our time together had a natural expiration date. Neither of us knew when it would come, but it was always somewhere in the background. Unfortunately, we found out sooner than expected. One Saturday during my off week, Jillian and I were just relaxing together. She was laying on top of me, both of us enjoying that quiet afterglow, when her mom called. Her dad had suffered a stroke and was in the hospital. The news wasn't good. We packed her bags in record time and got her to the airport. The goodbye was tough. Deep down, we both realized we might not see each other again. Jillian started to cry, and I just tried to hold on a little longer. When they called her flight, we finally let go. Her parting words stuck with me, "I'll never forget you, and I'll never stop loving you." I held it together until I got to my car. Then I lost it. That kind of loneliness hits you in the chest. Sitting there, I realized my anger at Melinda during the divorce had been masking a lot of pain I'd never really dealt with. Being single, dating around, had just distracted me from looking inward. But my time with Jillian made me face things. I finally let go of my anger, and I learned I could open my heart again. The next morning was Sunday. I drove home, and Melinda and the kids could immediately tell something was off. When I told them what had happened, they were incredibly supportive. Melinda jumped right into caring mode. She made me breakfast, then lunch, then dinner. We talked late into the night, just sharing our thoughts and feelings, before she finally headed home. Even then, I barely slept. Over the week, Jillian and I talked on the phone a few times. It became clear that her dad's recovery would be long, and she needed to stay and help her mom. We both knew this was the end, and even though it was painful, it felt right. The kids could see I was struggling, and they were amazing, supportive, understanding, just really there for me. By Friday, I felt the weight of being alone again. The kids were out with friends, and I'd long since thrown out my old black book. Jillian had cured me of my wild days, and I didn't have any desire to go back. I was thinking about dinner when the doorbell rang. Melinda was standing there, holding a pizza and a six-pack, wearing a smile that told me she was just there to help. I smiled back, grabbed the beers, and let the smell of fresh pizza lead us inside. We spent the evening talking and laughing, losing track of time until it was late. When she finally went home, I actually slept pretty well. The next day, Saturday, had a similar feel. The kids had plans, and the house was quiet. I ended up calling Melinda in the afternoon and asked if I could take her to dinner. She hesitated at first, but I teased her, saying I'd show up with takeout if she said no. She didn't hold out for long. "Are you asking me out, Tim?" she asked, with that sly tone that left room for interpretation. She was leaving it up to me to define things, but I'd already thought it through before I called. "Yeah, I am." "Exactly what?" she asked, and I could hear her smile over the phone. "What you just said," I replied, not wanting to get caught in a word game. "So you are, then, asking me out, on a date?" "Yes. I am," I answered, feeling calm about it. Then I quickly added, "unless you have other plans. If another time works better." "No," she said, maybe a little too eagerly, then caught herself. "I mean, I'm free." "Great. How about I pick you up at 7? I asked. "7 sharp sounds good," she replied, sounding relaxed. Then came the real question. "So, what kind of place do you have in mind?" I realized this wasn't really about food, it was about how she should dress. Honestly, I had no clue what to say, so I went with my best move. No one knows how to look great for any occasion better than you. "I'll pick you up at 7. See you then." I hung up before I could say anything awkward. Right after, panic hit me. I just asked my ex-wife out on a date, a real date. What was I doing? Was I serious? Was this just a rebound after Jillian? Was I messing with Melinda, or did I actually want to be with her again? I was bouncing between feeling nervous and excited. I nearly picked up the phone half a dozen times before 7. The problem was, I wasn't even sure what I'd say. Would I be calling to cancel, or just to clarify what the heck we were actually doing? I kept having all these mental conversations with myself and couldn't settle on any one explanation. Finally, I gave up and decided to take a shower, one of those long, hot ones where you try to clear your mind, and, yeah, take care of a little unexpected tension. Even after I'd showered, shampooed, and shaved, I was no closer to having answers. I didn't know what had gotten into me, asking Melinda out on a date, there, I said it, the D word, or what I should wear for the occasion. I stepped out of the bathroom and was greeted by the unexpected. Melinda was standing by the closet mirror, laying out her options, a red bra and panties set on the bed, a short red dress in one hand, jeans and a tank top in the other. "I just can't decide, Tim. What do you think?" I couldn't think straight. I was standing there, naked and surprised, and so was my ex-wife. My mind just shut down, and my body, well, it was making its own decision, which Melinda definitely noticed. She smirked a little. "Wow, your recovery time's improved with age." So, she'd been there long enough to notice. She fixed me with a look, one of those looks that tells you she means business. "Maybe if you tell me what you want, Tim, I'll know where we're going tonight." I just stood there, frozen. Suddenly, dinner and the whole date idea seemed like the least of my worries. Part of me knew exactly where it wanted to go, and my heart was beating a mile a minute. Melinda laughed softly. "Heart rate's up, huh? I guess you still clean up well." She nodded toward me, then pointed down between her thighs. She'd shaved too. "So, was that the reason for your shower, Tim? Little itchy, or just getting yourself ready?" I nodded, unable to get out much more than that. She stepped closer. "Well, I've been feeling kind of itchy myself lately," she teased, and in one quick motion, she wrapped her arms around my neck, jumped up, and wrapped her legs around me. "Maybe I shaved closer than you did, want to find out?" My head was spinning, and I stammered, "Melinda, maybe we shouldn't." But before I could finish, she slid down and pulled me toward her. The rest just kind of happened, instinct took over. Next thing I knew, we'd lost ourselves in the moment. All that tension, all those years, just melted away in one whirlwind embrace. That's right about when the kids walked in. I'd forgotten they were coming home to get ready for their own dates, and Melinda's laugh gave us away. Let's just say, that's a parenting memory nobody's ever going to mention at Thanksgiving. Claiming the kitty. Once the kids went out for the evening, Melinda and I attempted to go out to dinner as planned, but the tension between us was so strong that we barely made it through half a meal before heading back home. The rest of the night, we rediscovered that spark we'd always had. The next morning, we were woken by the kids knocking on the bedroom door. We made sure we were both under the covers before inviting them in. Their faces were a mix of confusion, exhaustion, and cautious hope. "So, are you guys back together?" one of them asked, direct as always. Melinda spoke up first, her voice steady but a little emotional. "I took advantage of your dad last night," she said, trying to keep it light but meaningful. She was about to say more, but I interrupted. "Yeah, she took advantage of the opportunity to talk about us getting back together. If it's all right with her, and with you guys, I'd like her to move back in. Maybe even today." Melinda was visibly shaking, trying to hold back happy tears. "I think we both know it'll take counseling and time and lots of patience. But I can't really see any other way forward, can you?" Melinda didn't answer in words. She just threw her arms around me and kissed me, laughing and crying at the same time. We heard the bedroom door close behind the kids and a quiet yeah from the hallway. Melinda looked at me and smiled, determined as ever. "You have no idea how much I'm going to make sure you never regret this. Even if it takes me the rest of my life." I hugged her close and laughed. "That's fine with me. I think the rest of our lives should just about cover it."